I got a little experience of this lately. When I was mostly living in New Jersey in the fall, I took to eating with my father and eating when I wasn't with my father. And so suddenly I realized after I got back to my own house that I had put on another 8 pounds or so from where I started out with, and I didn't think that was good. But funny thing about weight, it's a little easier to put on than to get rid of. And I realized that some of the habits that I picked up about eating snack foods like at the late night and having that last cocktail and things like that were kind of problematic. In addition, I also seem to have developed a bit of a sleep disorder. So that is also not good. And it turns out it's very difficult to lose weight if you don't sleep well either, which I didn't realize. I thought the more you were awake, the more you were going to be losing. But in fact, what happens is you just eat more, and you tend to pile it on, and then nothing comes off. So I realized that I got to, make some difference in the habits here. But it is not that easy. Right? I had my routines. Monday was Taco Bell. And Tuesday was Subway, and Wednesday was, I forget where. But I went to my places for lunch, and that cocktail is really nice. At the end of the night, you sit down, you play a few games on the computer, you have a nice glass of scotch, and kind of, enjoy the thing and kind of work your way into it. Because what happened is, if I went to bed at a regular, reasonable hour, I would just wake up. So I had to kind of wait and go to bed later. But then, of course, you go to bed later and you're not getting enough sleep. It's all a big mess, right? Changing those habits is not easy. Now, I can say I'm chipping away at it, and it's been about a month now, and I'm down 6 pounds. I'm very happy for that. Applause is good now at this moment. And in fact, I have a new routine at bedtime. I'm a great proponent of Benadryl now, which seems to be helping me stay in bed overnight, even if I go to bed at a reasonable hour, and that's working just fine. Thank you very much. But it's not easy, because every time I'm getting ready to do my night routine or my lunch routine, I'm faced with the remembering of, I could be going to Taco Bell right now, or I could be going to Quiznos or wherever it is and having a nice bit instead of having this handful of peanuts and an apple. Right? There is something pleasant and drawing for us about the things that are familiar and the things that fill us up that are very difficult to let go of and to replace with something different. Right? So what I'm trying to look at now is what are the habits of communication that might be as difficult, and maybe even more difficult, to change and address than our habits of daily living. Right? What are the habits of communication you have? Think about it for yourself. When you have trouble walking alongside your brother, or your sister, or whoever, what are the kind of things that tend to happen for you? Do you notice either that you wind up stuffing it, right? In other words, instead of kind of getting into it, you'll just kind of ignore it and go along. Do you wind up getting into tics, right? Because you just know if you just say the right thing, you'll convince them to your side, Or if you say the right thing, you'll get them to do the things that they've been disappointing you about, not doing, those sorts of things, right? What are the habits of communication that we engage in that get us to that point? And I want to leave you with a model that Mr. Rosenthal says is a good one to follow. Right? And his model is this. He says you basically want to do 4 things. You want to make an observation that is objective. You want to identify a feeling that is something that reflects how you personally are feeling inside. You want to note what your needs are that seem to be in relation to the feeling that you have. And you want to make a request, not a demand, a request that someone could or could not respond to that might work out. So an observation, it's an observation without evaluation. And here's an example. I don't know if I can find it. All right, so let's say you're inclined to tell someone, well, you're procrastinating. You're putting things off. And instead of that, he says, well, you could say, you only studied for exams the night before the exam. Right? Here's the difference there. There's no evaluation in there. It's just a statement of fact. Right? Just a statement of fact. And you might go on to state your feeling about it. Because if you're thinking somebody's procrastinating, you're disappointed in them, right? But what you might say instead is, I felt worried when I noticed you didn't study until the last night before the last exam. And I felt worried that you would not perform as well as you expected. Notice the difference there. Instead of, you're procrastinating, get over, come on guys, you got to get yourself working right away and pushing. Looking to find what are the things that you're observing as facts, finding a way to state it in a way that stays to the fact and reflects that you have concerns about it, not so much a criticism of the other person, but you have a concern, and that you might even have a request that goes through this. Right? I wonder if you'd be willing to think about making a plan about studying before the next test. Again, this is, I guess, part of a longer conversation and a complicated one. But I want us to be thinking forward in terms of what are the habits that we have that are going with that intuitive sense, and that are using our reasoning not to its best advantage, because we wind up engaging in reasoning that is, one, judging the other person, and two, figuring out how to encourage a punishment or making demands on other people, as opposed to using our reasoning to communicate what our observations, our feelings, our needs, and our wishes might be. That's enough for now. Thank you.